So the good news is that Robert filed what was called a summary judgment against me. And he was trying to claim that I had done so much damage and that based on discovery, he could prove it and that we didn't need to go to trial. And I did all of these things and that he was going to ask for like millions of dollars from me. And the judge denied his entire summary judgment. So he didn't prove to a judge that I had done what he said and that it was enough to skip trial or to have, the whole case disposed of, right? And I filed one too. And so mine was partially granted where they removed about 15 statements that I made and they said that that was not defamation or actionable.
Well, it was 13 statements. And as we talked about in a previous video, that is not why the judge, quote unquote, removed the statements. As this order states, some of the statements either do not have a link or they contain a statement that the post has been removed. The judge was unable to view these statements. So, since the court was not able to independently review those posts, it cannot be said whether or not there is a genuine issue of material fact as to whether they are defamatory, and it is appropriate to grant defendant's motion for summary judgment in regard to those statements. However, as this order reads, that's the only part of Katie Joy's summary judgment that was granted. The rest was denied. Let's look at what these 13 statements are. Let's look and see what Katie Joy said in these 13 statements, and you can decide if this helps Katie Joy or not. I don't personally think it does, considering there are 72 other statements that the judge clearly did find that there is a genuine issue of material fact as to whether they were defamatory. But the most important thing here is that because this judge removed these 13 statements does not mean she won. So let's get into it, y'all. So let's take a look at these 13 statements that the judge basically had to dismiss because they were not accessible and she could not review them. And I had quite a few comments that people were upset that Katie Joy was able to delete these things and get away with it and that this is going to go in her favor. So two things. I wanted to show that what each particular statement was, what was said, and how it probably is not helping Katie Joy and it's not hurting 7M to not have these statements any longer. Also, as a reminder, many of these statements or these posts were made before Katie Joy was sued and before there was a preservation letter. So for people saying that she was dirty deleting because she was trying to hide some things after the fact and that she was going against a preservation letter, I'm not here to defend Katie Joy in any way, but the facts are some of these posts were deleted prior. Now, I have some of them myself because some of them are still up and maybe for whatever reason the links just did not work for the judge. They could have been broken. I don't know. Some of them I do have, but they have since been deleted and they cannot be found on Katie Joy's Instagram page. But let's go ahead and look at these 13 statements that were made by Katie Joy that the judge ultimately had to dismiss. I am looking at a spreadsheet that Amber Stavig, 7M's attorney, filed on March 26 of 2025. And you can also find this document on the website. Here is the website and the direct link. You can find all the filings on this website from April of 2022 when 7M first sued Katie Joy. So this spreadsheet was ordered by the judge on March 10th that each party file or refile a new spreadsheet and renumber their exhibits beginning with 100 for the plaintiffs and beginning with the number 200 for defendants. The parties were ordered to have their new spreadsheets with exhibits and the corresponding numbers submitted by March 28th of 2025. So let's take a look at this spreadsheet with the corresponding numbers for these statements that the judge removed, again, because some of them either do not have a link or they contain a statement that the post had been removed, starting with statement number 12. The spreadsheet shows the statement number, the brief description of the allegations in the complaint what platform this was on, and whether or not the statement was deleted or not. It will then show the exact verbiage of the statement itself. So, statement number 12 says, dancers' lives are so tightly controlled that they can't do anything without speaking to Daniel first. Daniel Joseph controls the dancers' every move. This was on Instagram on March 3rd of 2022, and it says it was not deleted, so I was able to find the post. Why the judge was unable to view it was probably because there was something wrong with the link or the link was incorrect, whatever it may be, but you'll see that just because this post was not able to be viewed by the judge, you'll see that it's really not that important, and I'll show you why after we look at this post. Daniel Joseph, aka Daniel Joseph Papagato, is the mentor of the 7M dancers. He is calling the shots for Robert Shinn, according to the sources I've spoken to. Dancers' lives are so tightly controlled that they can't do anything without speaking to Daniel first. If Daniel says no, dancers can't do it. We recently shared these details in a live, and now I am blocked, making headway. So because she said all this in a live, the fact that the judge could not read this post isn't a problem, because the live stream that Katie just referenced in this post, 7M submitted as an exhibit, so the judge was able to see the live stream that Katie Joy actually said it herself. And here is a clip of that live stream that 7M has included as an exhibit with their summary judgment. So you can see that what Katie Joy says here, it really doesn't matter if the judge read this other post or not, because the judge still heard what Katie Joy had to say about Daniel controlling the dancers' every move.
I've been given information that Daniel, the reason why the kids aren't, the reason why no one's talking, and the reason why when they go on set and they go to shows and they are at rehearsals, and the reasons why they're not talking to people is because they're not allowed to. So Daniel Joseph is their mentor, and he is underneath the pastor. So when the pastor cannot be there, Daniel Joseph, who's the producer for all of these videos when you see him tagged, Daniel Joseph is underneath him, and so he's the producer on all of these videos, okay? They don't get to do anything unless Daniel says anything. So someone reached out to me that's not in the group but has heard, and then I had other corroborating statements from other people that they are not allowed to do anything unless they consult Daniel first. That includes if they want to buy a shirt, if they want to see their family, if they want to talk to their family, if they want to see their friends, if they want to go somewhere, if they want to spend any amount of money, if they want to really do anything. Daniel has to let them know.
Now, as stated in this order by the judge, all plaintiffs, Robert Shinn, Miranda Derrick, and James Derrick, all testified in their depositions that this, in fact, was not true. On to the next statement, statement number 21, which was on Instagram, March 8th of 2022, and it says that this has been deleted. The description of false allegations states, Robert Shinn's church is forcing the Derricks to live in a property owned by them. 7M is a cult engaging in human trafficking. According to 7M, the post said, over on TikTok, Isaiah Shinn is getting into arguments with commenters. I grabbed this comment because I was like, red flag. He says Miranda is the quote-unquote most free because she has her own house and a car. What the hell does that mean? Fact, Miranda and B- do not have their own home. Multiple sources confirmed to us that the church has them living in a property owned by the church. However, some of the property records are being held in obscure trust names unaffiliated with anyone at the homes. That sure is stating something as a fact, isn't it? Red flag. Fact. Having a car at age 25 when you're supposedly making bank on social media isn't a gift or a prize. It's a necessity of most working adults. Fact. Managers controlling every aspect of someone's life and not allowing them to make any decisions, controlling their money and relationships while working them to the bone resembles human trafficking. And then she has all of her hashtags that include hashtag trafficking, hashtag forced labor. But I was not able to find this post clearly because it has been deleted, but I was able to find this post that was on the same day. So it could be that she did two separate posts, or she went back and she edited the other post. But again, this is from the same day, and it states Isaiah Shinn says that Miranda Wilking, and her name is Miranda Derrick. So here she is just being a, Miranda Wilking, Miranda Derrick, is the most free because she has her own house and car. Fact, without a crystal ball, located the home she and B- share. The home is also home to Reno. Shirley Kim is a listing agent for the home. The home is a rental. The rent listed for a rent listing says they pay over $3,000. The home is not their home. Well, no shit. The church facilitated the rental and moved them in with Reno. There are no cars registered to Miranda. If she has a car, this is not in her name. It could be a lease through the church. The home is 1,500 square feet, hardly the quote-unquote baller life the 7M managers would like you to believe. Meanwhile, Israel Shinn drives a Bentley and rents a home for $12,000 per month with over 5,000 square feet. Red flag. And then her hashtags include hashtag trafficking, hashtag forced labor, which the judge pointed out in the order that her hashtags should be considered a whole with her posts. And so if the post, regardless of what the post says, if it has a hashtag that is forced labor or human trafficking, that is also in the judge's eyes and the court's eyes that post is referencing forced labor and human trafficking. On to the next statement, which is statement number 31. This statement was on Instagram, made on March 9th of 2022, and it was not deleted. It is still up on her page. Again, not sure why the judge was unable to access it, but it says, Catherine Paulson has accessed and distributed to the public confidential court documents covered by protective order. The post says, Robert Shinn has been running a cult for more than 20 years, according to former members. And then she adds 3 red flags, along with all of her hashtags. And here is that actual post where she wrote on top of this a copy of this order that 7M claims was protected by a protective order, but Katie wrote a cult group that improperly secured almost $5 million from the plaintiffs. So in this case, it probably would have been good for the judge to see something along these lines. I do know that there was something else submitted in evidence that did show the judge that Katie had posted this particular court filing that, again, 7M says was protected by a protective order. But nonetheless, it is still up on her channel. It is able to be found, and it is something that the jury could possibly see as this is projected to go to trial. The next statement is statements number 37 and 38. On March 11th of 2022 on Instagram, and it says it was not deleted, so it should still be up on her page. It states, for number 37, Catherine Paulson has accessed and distributed to the public confidential court documents covered by protective order. And for number 38, Shinn admitted to setting up a shell company, Mission 2020, in order to form other companies underneath the organization. He would start a business as DBA and only incorporate after it became quote-unquote profitable. The businesses generated limited income, but rather were used to funnel donations from the church to Robert Shinn as quote-unquote payroll, bonuses, and interest. The fact was the money he received via these businesses were donations made by Lydia Chung and her trust. Shinn took out loans from Shekinah Church for these businesses to pay himself via payroll, bonuses, and interest. He's using the church shell nonprofit to defraud people and enrich himself by funneling donations to shell for-profit companies. This post is still up on Katie Joy's Instagram, so it is possible that the jury could potentially see this eventually. But it says, regarding Chung versus Shinn, which is a lawsuit that happened years prior that 7M is claiming Katie Joy put out, even though it was under a protective order. And why she still has this up, I don't know. Katie Joy says it was not protected by a protective order. I don't know. Again, up for this jury to decide if this comes back up in the trial, but it states, Lydia Chung's lawsuit may have been dismissed due to statutes of limitations and the First Amendment, but Robert Shinn admitted to a lot in his sworn deposition. Facts. Shinn admitted to setting up a shell company, Mission 2020, in order to form other companies underneath the organization. He would start a business as DBA and only incorporate after it became profitable. The businesses generated limited income, but rather were used to funnel donations from the church to Robert Shinn as payroll, bonuses, and interest. The fact was the money he received via these businesses were donations made by Lydia Chung and her trust. Shinn admitted to creating around 13 businesses during this time period. Shinn took out loans from Shekinah Church for these businesses to pay himself via payroll, bonuses, and interest. Shinn drafted promissory notes from the church to the businesses where he was the sole person operating the businesses and church. He was borrowing from the church that was in his name to businesses in his name with no oversight. He also testified that he received $320,000 from Mission 2020 employees over a 3-day period as gifts because he is, quote unquote, the man of God. Shinn's operation appears to be a money laundering scheme where he's using non-taxable charitable donations, then creating shell companies where he is the CEO. Then he receives income from the money laundered from the donations from the church. Several of the businesses were not profitable nor making income. He also admitted the church received no other forms of income rather than donations. Simply put, he's using the church shell nonprofit to defraud people and enrich himself by funneling donations to shell for-profit companies. Even though he wasn't held responsible, his own sworn testimony is damning. The real question is, has the IRS ever investigated Shinn? Maybe they should at some point. And then all of our hashtags, including hashtag trafficking, hashtag forced labor, and others. So on to the next statements. Statement numbers 39 and 40. And these are in relation to the same thing we just went over, which is that Catherine Paulson has accessed and distributed to the public confidential court documents covered by protective order and claims improper management of church funds. So this was also on Instagram. Now, it does not have a caption and the link must not have worked, but my guess is sometimes Katie Joy will do a post, then she'll also put it on her reels, and sometimes she'll even do a short video where she's taking parts of what she said in this post and puts it into a video, like a 60-second video. That could be what this is, but has been since deleted. I don't know. Nonetheless, these 5 previous statements that we just looked at come down to 2 posts that are still on Katie Joy's Instagram. So it could be something the jury does see, but nonetheless, these last 5 statements are pertaining to the same thing. And these last 2, really, I don't know if it could be the same post and there's just a mix up here. I don't know. But nonetheless, if there's 13 statements that were removed, if you really look at it, it's really 11 because a lot of these are duplicates. Some of these are duplicates. So it's particularly these last 2. Now, the 3 prior to that did show up in 2 posts, if this makes sense. But these last 2, when it comes down to these 13 that people are worried that Katie Joy got away with so much, you can start to see that it really is not that, and that she did not, quote unquote, win as she's saying, because out of 13 statements, really only 11 of them could not be viewed, but the judge is still seeing and hearing the same information through other posts or other lives. I hope that makes sense. Let's move on to the next statement. Statement number 42 was on Instagram, March 13th of 2022, and it has been deleted from Katie Joy's Instagram, according to 7M. As of today, the church is conducting commercial business from the property out of ordinance and zoning. The post stated, Shekinah Church sat down with the Sunland Tujunga Community Board to propose a change in land use. The church sits in a residential area and is not zoned to be used as a church. The present zoning is limited to single-family homes, community centers, and schools. In January 2021, a Shekinah Church member named Wes shared their proposal for rezoning the land for a church. The issues at hand are the building has limited parking and sits in a canyon where there is loud echoes off the property. The property was zoned as a school, and the neighbors had numerous issues with traffic, drop-off, and noise. The zoning limited their activities to daytime only. Shekinah Church proposed that the church would have activities 7 days a week. Evening activities occurred most nights. Their church auditorium can only hold 125 people per city parking guidelines. They claimed they would do outreach. However, their big argument was that they would be running a quote-unquote online ministry and would need studios to create the content that they put out online. Neighbors were not happy. None of them wanted a church in the area. The board members described the area as a rural area where people live to get away from the traffic and noise. West made a point to state that the church were particularly interested in outreach to juvenile delinquents and the elderly. Then Katie added a confused emoji. Neighbors wanted nothing to do with potential youth criminals in their community. A flag on the church property concerned neighbors. Instead of having an American flag, the church had an Israel flag. Neighbors had no issues with the flag, but stated that it is proper that, and I don't have the rest of this, so I think you get the gist. I just don't know if Katie Joy deleted it because she realized that this information was wrong or that she looked creepy as hell by putting this. I don't know, but it was deleted, and I don't think that can be accessed unless, maybe there's some archives. But those are some pretty damning statements. But again, that one was deleted. On to the next statement, which is statement number 46. And the description of the false allegation in the complaint is Robert Shinn forcing couples to divorce, cut off family, and having them live in separate houses divided by sex. Relationships have been cut off by the dancers because of Robert's coercion. Robert is taking away privileges and punishes dancers who do not submit. He demands full submission. They are not allowed to ask questions because questions are evil. The number of personal injury claims that have been filed against Shinn or church members related to their cars, and you start to see the threats are not just spiritual. Then add that Lydia Chung stated yesterday that the women are at risk of sexual exploitation. This was put on her Instagram, March 17th of 2022. It was not deleted. It is still there. And here is the post. But it states, this is by far the most disturbing aspect of Robert Shinn. He truly believes he's God and has a right to dictate the lives of other people, including forcing couples to divorce, cut off family, and having them live in separate houses divided by sex. The dancers are also divided into home by the church, though this time it's not by sex. Relationships have been cut off by the dancers because of Robert's coercion. The dancers are never alone and not allowed to make decisions without Robert's permission. Robert truly believes he has the right to take away someone's free will. It's sick. For those saying they are adults, let them be in a cult. What if your loved one was held hostage through threats of damnation, loss of income, loss of friends, cursing, taking away privileges? Robert is taking away privileges and punishes dancers who do not submit. He demands full submission. They are not allowed to ask questions because questions are evil. Now let's throw in all the firearms Shirley owns, the number of personal injury claims that have been filed against Shinn or church members related to their cars, and you start to see the threats are not just spiritual. Then add that Lydia Chung stated yesterday that the women are at risk of sexual exploitation. This isn't a cult. This is, in my opinion, a madman that got away with it once and his behavior is escalating. Just my thoughts and opinions at the end. So what part of this is an opinion and which part of this is fact? This is why you've been sued, Katie Joy. And it is kind of a shame that the judge was not able to access this one. Nonetheless, this is still on her page. People are still able to access it. If the jury needs to see it, they will. And let's keep in mind that the judge clearly saw an issue with every single other statement she was able to access. She was not able to access these, therefore they were removed. They were tossed for now. Every single statement that remained, she saw an issue with and says a jury should decide if it's defamatory or not. On to the next statement, statement number 62. This was on her Instagram, March 23rd of 2022, and this has been removed from Katie Joy's Instagram. It was, in fact, deleted. The allegations in the complaint is Robert Shinn refers to his followers as the mighty nation. He is taking scripture from Isaiah 60:22, which says, "The least of us will become 1,000, the smallest the mighty nation. At the right time, I, the Lord, will make it happen." His beliefs in separation of followers from family, isolating them through a belief that they are selected by God, is absolutely dangerous and can lead to drastic events like Waco and Jonestown. 7M's attorney did not leave a caption for this and a link that obviously did not work. So I don't know if this was something that she stated in a live or if this was a post. But the judge did mention it within the order that Katie Joy compared Robert Shinn to Jim Jones. The only post I was able to find where Katie Joy did refer to Jim Jones as a post, not where she discussed it in a live stream, but in a post, is this one. Nonetheless, Katie Joy has referred to or compared Robert Shinn to Jim Jones. She also made this post where she clearly compares Robert Shinn to David Koresh of Waco. I don't know if these posts are still up or not, but regardless, she did compare Robert Shinn to both Jim Jones and David Koresh of Waco. On to the next statement. Statement number 65 on Instagram. That was March 30th of 2022. And this has been, according to 7M, this has been deleted from Katie Joy's page. And the allegation and the complaint is, again, reposting Miranda Derrick's paid sponsorship of Do Fasting app and claiming she is a victim of a cult, that 7M's clients are under mind control. And Katie apparently made a couple or a few posts regarding Miranda Derrick in this paid sponsorship. So the judge did see another post regarding this sponsorship with Do Fasting because there is a short video Katie Joy did and it has been put into evidence, so the judge would have seen that. And that is still up on Katie Joy's page, and I'm going to show that here. But whatever this particular post was, that I don't know, because whenever I guess 7M tried to re-access it or access it, it states, "Sorry, this page isn't available. The link you followed may be broken or the page may have been removed." So whatever that was, I don't know. So the judge could not access that. However, I do know that they put this video into evidence so the judge would have seen the video regarding Do Fasting.
Guys, so I've been intermittent fasting for quite some time now, and I've been using the app Do Fasting. They have completely changed the game for me and have helped me so much on this journey. I've been pushing myself to use it every day. It helps keep track of my weight, my water intake, calorie intake, the amount of steps I take in a day. It's incredible. Quick background on why I started intermittent fasting. I learned a lot of great health benefits from doing it. I learned that it helps improve your sleep schedule, it helps improve your brain functionality, and just helps maintain a healthy lifestyle in general. I love that with Do Fasting, they show your tasks for the day, so you can choose how many hours you fast for, when you start, when you stop. It tracks everything for you on the main screen. It shows you how many hours have been completed. They offer different workout plans as well, so you can do beginner, intermediate, advanced, and try out some different workouts, as well as if you're in the mood for anything, you can type into the search bar.
In that clip, you can see the description Katie Joy had below it, so you can pause and read if you wish, and you can see the entire post. But let's move on to the next statements, which are statement numbers 67, 68, and 69. And according to 7M, all three of these have been deleted. They were on Instagram. They might have been an Instagram story, an Instagram reel. That I don't know. But number 67, Instagram story stating that Robert Shinn targeted his clients and exploits them. 68, Instagram story stating that Robert Shinn and B- abandoned their children. Number 69, Instagram story bragging about being the go-to for all information about the cult leader Robert Shinn. All three of these are just repeats of other statements that Katie Joy has said. So I don't think that it's a huge thing that these particular ones were not able to be viewed by the judge. But one of them, she still has a post up. And it is dated March 30th, a day before the dates that 7M marked these to be. And it states, fathers abandoning children. I'm not going to read this because honestly, this post infuriates me. It's just so wrong on so many levels. But feel free to pause and read if you like. It is the full post. Again, it is still up on her channel. And this is something that, now I don't recall, to be honest, if this is in evidence, if this is something that 7M used, this particular post. But nonetheless, if it is something they referenced here and they are able to go find this post, again, it could be something that gets to the jury. That I don't know. But feel free to read it on your own. I'm not going to read it again because honestly, it's just too upsetting and it's infuriating. And James is a father, and the facts are Katie Joy does not know what his relationship is with his son. She's heard what it might be, but the facts are she does not know. So on to the next statement and the last statement, which is statement number 80. This post was posted on April 6th of 2022, which is a day before Katie Joy was served, and it has been deleted according to 7M. The description of false allegation in the complaint says, report that Robert Shinn's Shekinah Church was illegally operating as a church without a proper zoning permit. It says this post was removed, so there is no link, but according to them, the post said, following Without a Crystal Ball's report that Shekinah Church was illegally operating as a church without a proper zoning permit, Shekinah Church and Robert Shinn applied for a conditional use permit with LA City Planning Commission. In the application, they admit that neighbors were not interested in them being in the area. They admit they are not zoned as a church. They propose a conditional use permit, but the case is currently, quote unquote, on hold with the zoning board. Shekinah Church has been using the property to hold services without a permit. They are also filming commercial content without permits. The church will not offer Sunday school or any program for kids. Super weird for a church. And then she has a confused emoji again. Further proof that what we report is factual and that Shekinah is scrambling to clean up their messes. She just stated this as a fact. Well, then why did you delete it, Katie Joy? Because this one was deleted. Was it because your information is wrong? And again, I don't know when she deleted it, but I have seen this. I had this somewhere. I don't know if this is still up on her page or not, but it's a post where she said the church had been using a commercial building without a conditional use permit to use the building as a church for years. So I don't know if this was a post related to that or if it's a separate post because I do not have the description below which she would have written. But nonetheless, clearly she talked about Shekinah Church a lot. Now, one thing I want to point out about this post and another statement that the judge tossed because it was not accessible is that within the order, the judge stated Shekinah is not a party to this lawsuit. So would these posts even really make a difference? Would these posts regarding Shekinah make a difference because the judge has stated that Shekinah is not a party? So maybe this would not come into play. So maybe it's not a big deal that anything related to Shekinah, such as this, was not accessible to the judge for her to be able to view the posts. Because again, let's please keep in mind that out of 85, 13 were tossed. The majority of them, as you can see, really are not harmful to 7M's case, and they don't help Katie Joy really in any way. And the other 72, there was not one of them that the judge said, nah, I'm going to toss that one on my own. Okay. So Katie Joy, I don't know where this is going to go other than from what I do know and from what I can see, this is going to trial. And we'll see where it goes from there. I just wanted to come on here and show everybody these 13 statements so you could decide for yourself whether or not this means Katie Joy won, because she had 13 statements that were tossed, which had to grant in part her summary judgment, but the rest of it was denied. And yes, 7M's summary judgment was denied as well. But this does not make this a win for Katie Joy. I personally, and this is my opinion, see maybe a couple of statements that sure it would have been nice if the judge could have seen. But again, out of the other 72, the judge did find genuine issue of material fact, and therefore it needs to go to trial and a jury needs to decide. So let's end this here, y'all. And as always, thank you so much for joining and listening. listening. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so. Hit that thumbs up, ring that notification bell, and you'll be notified anytime I go live or put out a new video. I hope to see you in the comments below, letting me know your thoughts on these 13 statements and whether or not this is truly, as Katie Joy called it, a win for her and a huge loss for Robert Shinn. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye, y'all.